people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this, a fight that wasn't on my bingo card. Later on this month, on the 29th, Adelaide Ruiz will take on Alexis Kubicki for what they say is the WBC Super Flyweight World title.
The winner of the fight is going to be WBC champion?
I don't see any other designations there. It doesn't say interim title or international title. It doesn't say silver title.
It says world.
Adelaide Ruiz, who used to hold the interim title at this same weight but subsequently lost it to Virginia Fuchs, sports a professional record of 17 wins with 1 loss and 1 draw, 8 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 19 professional bouts. Seems ironic that Aleda might get to fight for the world title before Virginia, who beat her. Further indication that the World Boxing Council is very much flawed in how they govern things, how they run things. Virginia Fuchs has been interim champion for well over a year now, but they've yet to order the fight between Virginia and the reigning champion.
And instead we're seeing this, that instead of Virginia being elevated to full champion, Adelaide and Alexis will fight for the title.
Alexis Kubicki, that sports a professional record of 13 wins with 2 losses and no draws, 2 knockouts, having been knocked out once in 15 professional bouts. That knockout was in her last fight at the hands of undisputed champion Gabby Fundora, who wore her out and wore her down in the 7th round of a contest scheduled for 10, forcing a stoppage.
A chance at redemption for young Alexis, who suffered that loss in the flyweight division. This fight is at Superfly. Becoming a world champion there would more than make up for the loss.
Young Alexis is 22 years old to Adelaide Ruiz, who is 37.
15 years older.
And this fight with Adelaide will be Alexis's 4th fight of this year. She saw action in March, in May, again in September. She will see action again at the end of November, at the end of this month.
Adelaide Ruiz last saw action earlier this year in July, getting back in the winner's bracket against Luz Ventura. Winning a unanimous decision, going the distance with Luz in a contest scheduled for 8, this being a title fight. It's scheduled for 10. 50-50 fight, in my humble opinion. What Adelaide Ruiz lacks in youth, she makes up for in aggressiveness and punching power, best described as a pressure fighter.
Not really big on fundamentals, but big on ferocity and volume, albeit 37 years old, whereas Alexis is a lot younger and a lot fresher, a lot quicker and lighter on her feet.
22 years old.
Though not big on power, Alexis is big on movement, angles, footwork, and quickness. Even if her last fight was not the best advertisement for her boxing acumen, the knockout loss to Gabby Fundora, Gabby Fundora is an exceptionally capable boxer and a tall drink of boxing, to where just because Gabby was able to stop Alexis, that doesn't mean that everybody else can.
Gabby's hard as hell to work around because she's so tall and she's so long, and it really doesn't help that she can move, she can box. She's very good at managing the distance. Getting close to a fighter like that is really, really difficult. So just because Alexis struggled with Gabby, she may not struggle as much with Adelaide, who's noticeably shorter, older,
slower.
It's a 50-50 fight in my humble opinion. Alexis has a lot of the right ingredients to win this fight, but we don't know yet how damaging that Fundora fight was. I mean, that was a punishing loss, and she got hit a lot.
In the 7 rounds that fight lasted, Alexis got hit with everything.
So that she's now going into a world title fight. I think that's encouraging. I think it communicates something about Alexis's confidence, though at the same time, her last fight was a really difficult one. Set to go down in Fresno, California, which would give Adelaide Ruiz home field advantage. She is a native Californian after all, whereas Alexis is from north of the border in Edmonton, Canada.
It's a 50-50 fight, in my humble opinion, and Pro Box's penchant for evenly matched, entertaining fights. They're really good at that.
Putting fights like that together. We'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches. Men's super featherweight news. The Eduardo Nuñez versus Emmanuel Navarette unification match shifts dates and venues.
The brainchild of Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, who are pushing to have a unification match at 130 pounds, since we all know Top Rank never placed much emphasis on staging unification matches at this weight. This is Eddie's baby, Matchroom's baby.
Eduardo Sugar Nuñez and Emmanuel Navarette will take their act to another part of town. Boxing Scene has learned that the attractive IBF WBO super featherweight unification bout remains on course for the greater Phoenix area, though no longer specifically in the city. Instead, the event will be bumped up 1 week to February 28th and shifted to the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. Nuñez versus Navarette was previously targeted for March 7th at the Mortgage Market Center, home to the NBA's Phoenix Suns and the WNBA's Phoenix Mercury. A definitive reason was not given for the change in decorum, other than the suggestion that plans for the bout, while agreed to in principle, was not yet finalized at that time. The new location still provides a similar backdrop for Navarette, 39-2 with 1 draw and 32 knockouts. Nuñez, 30-1 with 28 knockouts, fights in the greater Phoenix area for the first time. Navarette's title reign began at the Desert Diamond Arena when he climbed off the canvas to knock out Australia's own Liam Wilson in the 9th round of their thriller in February of 2023, close to 2 years ago. Navarette returned to the venue for his first title defense, a competitive but clear 12-round unanimous decision win over the former two-division champion Oscar Valdez in August of that same year.
I look at this fight as redemption. Redemption for the DAZN platform and their ability to provide fights at an affordable price that satisfy what boxing fans want. Because we all know they recently rolled out their quote-unquote ultimate tier that to a lot of people seems like plain old price gouging. That if you want to see a good fight on DAZN, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Since they're doing more pay-per-views, which means more paywalls, it costs more money.
How is this redemption then?
I don't get the impression that they're going to bill Navarette versus Nuñez as a pay-per-view. This is not a Turkey LL Chic, Riyadh Season, or Ring Magazine show. This is mostly a Matchroom affair between Matchroom and Zenfer and Top Rank, and I don't get the impression that they're going to bill this as a pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong. Navarette versus Nuñez is great, but neither fighter has a big enough following that you should stage a fight between them as a pay-per-view. In Navarette's most recent start, he defended his WBO title against the unbeaten Charlie Suarez in what was eventually ruled a no contest. Their clash in May, also at Pechanga Arena, was originally ruled a technical decision win for Navarette due to an in-ring ruling that a cut he suffered was caused by a headbutt. He led on all 3 judges' scorecards at the time of the stoppage. The in-ring ruling and verdict sparked immediate debate. Chief among the outrage was, of course, Suarez's team, who argued that their fighter was cheated out of a stoppage win that would have earned him the WBO 130-pound title. An appeal was filed by Suarez, who successfully had the verdict nullified upon review from the California State Athletic Commission. An immediate rematch was ordered soon thereafter by the WBO, though weeks went by without any real update. One emerged during the annual WBO convention in Bogota, Colombia, the ratings portion of the convention, which was held on October 31st, called for an update on Navarette's next title fight, as it was already long rumored that he would face Nuñez and not Suarez. The two sides were given until November 15th to finalize terms before the WBO would intervene and put the Navarette-Suarez rematch back in play. The only holdup was a proper step-aside deal. to compensate Suarez, a hurdle that was cleared soon thereafter. Nuñez versus Navarette first gained traction when the two met in the ring after Nuñez's decision win over Pitufo Diaz, a common opponent between them in his hometown of Los Mochis, Mexico, in September. Nuñez lodged the first defense of his IBF title with that win, less than 4 months after he outpointed Masanori Rikishi in May in Yokohama, Japan. A unification bout was long sought by Navarette, a three-weight world champion who was denied that opportunity at 122 and 126. His title reign seemed resigned to the same fate until Top Rank in Matchroom, Nuñez's co-promoter, alongside BXSTRS, discussed the possibility of this fight. The change in location is a win for the Desert Diamond Arena. This event will mark the first boxing card for the intimate venue since a Top Rank Boxing on ESPN show headlined by Tijuana's Jaime Munguia in September of last year. Top Rank and Matchroom have separately promoted the past 6 boxing events to take place at this venue and fittingly join forces to continue that streak with this highly anticipated bout.
Really is an excellent fight between world champions and, moreover, between pressure fighters. Pressure fighter versus pressure fighter is one of the most fan-friendly styles of fights that you can make. Oddly enough, though, you don't often see it. Pressure guy versus pressure guy, but that's what this is.
They got Charlie Suarez to stand down and step aside, which I'm happy to see. Look, I understand that Charlie wants his second crack at the apple, and in many ways, he deserves it, but he should not be the reason we miss out on this fight. This fight is more consequential to the division, more significant to the sport. It's sure to get more attention than a simple Suarez rematch.
And Charlie playing ball when the time comes, instead of just boxing for one alphabet title, he'll get the chance to box for 2.
Now, as stated, this could be a shot at redemption for the DAZN platform, depending on how they build this fight, because I don't get the impression that they would build this fight with these fighters as a pay-per-view. It really is an excellent fight, but it's not box office worthy. And what dictates whether or not something is box office and something isn't is the audience. How many people pay to see a fight? How many people pay to be there is what determines whether or not something is pay-per-view worthy. The ends have to justify the means, and as much as I like this fight, love this fight, neither Navarette or Nuñez have the kind of following that warrants this being a pay-per-view. I don't think it will be.
Between Frank Warren, Turkey LL Sheik, and a proposed Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios pay-per-view in the coming calendar year, they're doing enough box office fights over there that Eddie Hearn doesn't need to add more.
More pay-per-views to that equation. I believe that he spent enough time in America since debuting here in 2018 or 2019, I believe it was, that he should know this is an excellent fight. It's a great fight, but it's not box office worthy. It's not a fight that's likely to draw that many pay-per-view buys, and if you're not going to draw that many, why even do it?
Why bill it as a pay-per-view? Pay-per-views in and of themselves automatically alienate a large portion of the boxing audience, especially at a time when more and more Americans are moving away from pay-per-view and towards illegal streams. They've got pay-per-view fatigue.
I don't get the impression this is going to be a pay-per-view. I hope that it isn't, and if it's not, it really is a shot at redemption for DAZN as a platform, that you're still giving us value for money, you're still giving us good fights at an affordable price, and let's hope that's the case.
In men's welterweight news, Devin Haney believes it'll be tough to one-up becoming an undisputed champion. Devin Haney has a formidable challenge on his hands when he steps into the ring to face undefeated WBO champion Brian Gore-Tex. Later on this month, on the 22nd, the fight will feature on Ring 4, Night of Champions, at the A&B Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on DAZN pay-per-view. But even if he can overcome Norman, Haney isn't sure if he'd view it as his best accomplishment in the squared circle.
Maybe he wouldn't, but I think a lot of people would. I think a lot of people would give Devin more credit for beating Brian than his big win over George Kambosos years ago, that even if George was a unified champion, Bryan is a more formidable adversary for Haney. The former two-weight world champion thinks becoming undisputed lightweight champion by defeating George is his best achievement so far, and he believes that could still hold true even if he upsets the hard-hitting Norman, though a win would still rank highly for him and fulfill a dream of his. It would definitely be a milestone for me, Haney said to The Ring. I think becoming the undisputed champion, it would be hard to outrank because it was a crazy achievement, especially to go to Australia and win all of the belts like that. This would definitely be a huge milestone for me and a dream come true.
Not just that, but the biggest advertisement that Devin Haney is not scared shitless, he's not shell-shocked, and he's not damaged goods as a result of the beating that he took against Ryan Garcia. A lot of people didn't like how Devin looked with Jose Ramirez in his last fight. They think he's terrified to get hit now. So the best advertisement that Devin Haney still got it is if he beats Bryan.
I believe that this fight is already beginning to steal the show from the main event on that same card, Benavidez versus Yard. I see a lot more people and a lot more content creators talking about Haney versus Norman than Benavidez versus Yard. Now maybe it's because Anthony Yard has already been beat 3 times before, so David beating him is entirely plausible.
Possible.
Whereas this fight between Devin and Bryan is between 2 unbeaten guys, 2 guys who still have their O intact.
2 Americans.
Adding to the fight's appeal, 2 Americans that are highly xenophobic whenever foreigners are involved. It's more interesting that it involves 2 homegrown fighters, 2 Americans.
America! Fuck yeah!
Now, Devin Haney has not been ranked on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list ever since he dropped his WBC super lightweight title per the rules that govern it. No fighter absent of a world title is allowed to maintain a rank, so the moment that Devin dropped his WBC title, he was out of the running and out of contention. But a win over Brian Gore-Tex could get him back on the list, as that would make Devin a 3-weight world champion, having beaten 3 world champions apiece. George Kambosos at lightweight, Regis Prograis at super lightweight, and Bryan potentially at welter.
What if Bryan wins?
Unfortunately, it's not the same situation for Bryan, because Bryan never actually beat a world champion, did he? Not even to become a world champion himself. He was elevated to that position after Terrence Crawford moved up. Bryan, as much as I like the kid, he never beat a champion to be a champion, and beating Devin Haney, even that doesn't qualify. It would be the biggest win of his career and the most high-profile fight of his career, but Devin is not a champion anymore. He's not a champion anywhere. Welterweight least of all. He's vying to become a champion, so that if you beat him, it's invalid. Devin doesn't hold a belt in the welterweight division, so when you beat him at welterweight, you didn't beat a welterweight champion. You didn't win a belt from him. You just got to keep your own. So if Bryan wins, unfortunately, he's not going to be integrated into the list on that premise. But Devin, because he already has such an extensive body of work,
Because he's already beat a champion at 3 weights, because he's already beat 2 world champions and taken their belts, Bryan would make 3. That would be enough for Devin to get back on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. Now, is he going to?
is he going to win? I don't know, man. He fought like a man who's shell-shocked against a slow-footed Jose Ramirez. How's he going to look against Bryan, who's younger, faster, and stronger?
I don't know, man.